guys, welcome to session 2 of our Mindful Minutes program. I hope throughout the week you've been able to use the tool of the breath in moments where you felt a little overwhelmed. I'd love to hear some feedback to note that if it's been effective for you. Today's focus is on the really wonderful sentiment that I believe lots and lots in and practice all the time. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Guys, this is a really powerful mindful tool because mindfulness doesn't just mean sitting quietly and meditating. Obviously, that's definitely part of it. But as I said in session 1, it means you being aware of the way that you show up in the world, your actions, your reactions, your language. There are probably loads of things in your life, right now even, that you feel a little frustrated by, that perhaps you don't like, that perhaps raise a lot of emotion for you that isn't necessarily positive. And the truth and reality of it all is that you can't change it. Let's use COVID for an example. We can't change this. We have control over none of this, right? And sadly, those situations that you can't control are going to continue to arise for the rest of your life as young adults and moving on from there. So we have two choices. Given that there is essentially only one thing in this whole world that we can control, and that is ourselves, given that is the reality of our life, then everything and everyone around us will continue to do its thing without us having any effect on it. So the way that we can cope in these sorts of environments that perhaps don't really stimulate us in a positive way is to perhaps change the way we think about them. So that's not to say that you need to be in an environment that you feel uncomfortable in and stay in that environment. You have the power of choice to be in any situation you choose. But this is saying that when you are in an environment that isn't quite working for you, but you know you need to be there because it serves you and the greater good, then perhaps changing your perception will in fact allow you to have a completely different experience. So let me give you an example. There might be a subject at school that you're really not fond of. Yeah, a subject that you have to go to every day or every other day. And worst case scenario is it's led by a teacher that you two are perhaps not necessarily fond of or you find it challenging to learn from. You can't change that concept. You can't change the fact that you have to go to that class, right? You can't change the teacher that's teaching you that class. So therefore, I would assume that if there is a class in your curriculum that you don't enjoy, you probably don't necessarily do very well at. You probably don't apply yourself very much to it. You're probably not really open to gaining from that experience. Would I be right? I'm saying this from experience, right? Because for me, that was maths back in my day. Okay, here is the thing. Given you cannot change any of that situation, why don't you try changing the way you approach it, changing the way you think about it, changing your perception of it? Because if you do, you may or may not, but you've given yourself an opportunity, you may realize that you are quite good at it, or there are elements of it that you do enjoy. Or you have connected and built a relationship with that teacher that you thought you never would have. So what I'm trying to say is if you remain negative or in a negative mindset or an unenthusiastic mindset about things that you can't change, you'll never give yourself an opportunity to grow or learn from that situation. And if you don't, you then have just missed out on an opportunity of growth, on an opportunity just in general. And if that is your frame of mind going forward in your late school years, or perhaps you're in year 11 or 12, nearly about to enter adulthood and the workplace or studying, then you are going to restrict yourself from so many opportunities, from so many beautiful relationships, from so many experiences that could help you grow, that could give you prospect, that could just be amazing and exciting and fulfilling. Now, given I'm probably a handful of years senior than you, I'm sure I finished school a lot longer than you guys are even alive 20 years ago. I know that when I'm in a frame of mind where it's very narrow, where I've got my blinkers on and I can only see Fiona's way or the highway, then I never allow myself for opportunity. There might have been an enormous amount of stuff that I missed out on throughout my life. But I don't really work in that way. Not that I don't, because I know that every time I'm in a situation that's challenging, every time I'm in a situation that puts me out of my comfort zone or feels uncomfortable, I know that within that same situation, there is opportunity for growth. There is opportunity, full stop. And I also know that in that moment, I only have control over one thing, and that is the way I choose to act, react, and my attitude towards that situation. Therefore, if I have the power to create change in all of those three areas, why wouldn't I do it? Why wouldn't I change my actions? Why wouldn't I control my reactions? And why wouldn't I shift my attitude to give myself an opportunity to explore something new and perhaps even grow? So as I said, there's going to be so much in your world that you cannot control. So many circumstances that perhaps you're not going to like at all. And so many people are going to go, tough nails, you got to put up with it. I'm giving you another tool. It's not tough nails. It's an opportunity for you to change your thinking and your perception to offer you a new opportunity for growth. Because if we're not growing every day, what are we doing? We're becoming stagnant. It's the same old. And inevitably, life's going to be pretty boring. There's not going to be much exciting going on in your world whatsoever because you haven't allowed opportunity for great stuff to really, really come and be part of your world. So guys, if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. I want you to take a moment to reflect on something right now in your life that you're really struggling with. So a situation or even a relationship that's not serving you so well. You feel negative towards it, you feel anger or frustration towards it, even you just feel kind of unenthusiastic towards it. Have a little think. Good. And perhaps in your journals, you could just make a note of this circumstance. Just make a little note of it and just perhaps think about what it is and what emotions come up for you when you are in that environment or when you are engaging in that relationship. So I'll give you 30 seconds or so to jot that down. Good. Okay, once you have done that, I just want you to read it over a few times, and I want you to connect with the emotions that arise, that come up for you when you kind of put yourself back into that situation. So just notice what feelings happen instantaneously without you even having to think about it. What does it trigger for you? Frustration, anger, boredom, annoyance. What comes up for you? Okay. If you continue to feel these feelings and allow these emotions to trigger in this situation or in this relationship, nothing will ever shift. You'll be putting up with that for as long as you have to, given you have no control over it. If you make that choice, then that is your choice. If you make that choice to continue to feel those feelings towards that situation or that person, then that is your absolute choice. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that when all these horrible emotions and feelings come up in relation to this situation that you've written down, guess who suffers? You. Not your teacher, not maths, or whatever the subject is that you chose, if it was even a subject. You are the one that suffer because you are the one that are feeling the emotions. Emotions can be like a double-edged sword. You know, they can be a double-edged sword in a positive way, whereby a positive emotion is then someone else is then able to enjoy and feed off your positive emotion, which is not a sword at all. It's like a wand, right? Let's call that a positive double-edged wand. But when it's a negative emotion, it's a double-edged sword, because you are essentially feeling those feels and then it's consuming your whole body. So even though it might have a bit of an effect on the person, if it's a relationship you're talking about, it won't have the same amount of effect on them as it does on you, because you are the one that is completely embedded in that emotion. And that's not a great place to be in. That sucks, actually, to be really honest. So why can't you change your perception of it? Why can't you start to challenge yourself to alter your thinking towards this situation so that you no longer have to suffer feeling these horrible emotions? So we're going to spend a couple of minutes towards the end of this session now just becoming quiet and just perhaps envisaging that situation or that relationship in a different way. Now, because those emotions that you have attached to it are strong and they've probably been there for a really long time, they're going to want to dominate. They're going to want to jump in front and say, feel me, I'm the one that you want to feel me. But I want you to challenge yourself with the power of your mind to think different thoughts, because what you think ends up being what you feel. Challenge your mind to think different thoughts, more positive thoughts, kinder thoughts, more compassionate thoughts, more open to expanding thoughts. So on that note, let's just rest our hands back on our belly and reintroduce some diaphragmatic breathing as we did last lesson. So close down your eyes. And I'm just going to remind you of that analogy that your diaphragm is like a balloon. So can you breathe in and really feel your diaphragm expand underneath your palms? And then breathe out and feel it deflate toward your spine. Good. Soften your face as you do this. Breathe in. And breathe out. And again, breathe in. And breathe out. Last one. Breathe in. And breathe out. Good. Rest your palms on your knees and keep your eyes closed. Just take your attention to that situation or relationship that you have written down on your piece of paper. And now, given some emotions are going to naturally arise, can you use the power of your mind to change your thinking and envisage instead that situation but in a more positive light? And it doesn't have to be rainbows and unicorns and unrealistic. It just needs to be calmer. Emotions that are achievable, emotions that don't leave you feeling frustrated and anxious. Perhaps you're not so hard on yourself with your language in regards to that subject at school. Perhaps instead of continuing to butt in the conversation with your parent or your teacher or your peer that frustrates you, you just let them talk. And you allow yourself to listen and hear what they're saying. Perhaps instead of fighting off your sibling that annoys the hell out of you, you give them an extra 10 minutes of your time and you converse with them or give them your undivided attention. Perhaps you go to your job or workplace with a more optimistic attitude. Excited that that job or that workplace is actually providing you with an income that you have a choice on how you spend. There are so many opportunities in every situation in our life to see the abundance in, to see that there could be growth. And if there's not abundance and if there's not growth, maybe there just could be an element of acceptance. It is what it is. I don't need to get angry over it. I don't need to stress about it. I don't need to lose sleep over it. It is what it is. Imagine moving through your days, feeling calmer, not feeling so reactive over everything, not feeling that parasympathetic nervous system be challenged every time you do something that you don't like. Can you notice how grounded your sit bones feel? And now can you notice how tall your spine can grow? Can you soften your shoulders and your face? Even let your elbows droop toward your thighs. And gently draw your chin toward your chest. You have control over one thing in this entire world, and that is you. Your actions, your reactions, your attitude, your perception. Why don't you make choices that serve you instead of leave you feeling suffering or pain or anxiety? You actually have the power to do that. And gently blink open your eyes. Well done, guys. There is a worksheet dedicated to this class, so enjoy sifting through that. Have the most beautiful week, and namaste.